Hi everyone, welcome to JEDi episode 18. My name is Jimmy and with me today are Ethan and David. For those of you who tune in to our Facebook Live for the first time, and if you want to know more about Ask and the name JEDi, do check out our first episode in the video section. I'll be the moderator for this episode, so here's how we're going to run through. Firstly, Ethan and David will be having a fireside chat on investments part 7. And then David will be sharing a bonus section on his view on property investing. And in this capacity, he's representing Singaporeanlandlord.sg. Alright. Then last but not least, we'll have a Q&A section. So feel free to post your questions in the comment section below, and we will address them during the Q&A session. So without further ado, I'll let Ethan start ball rolling. Ethan?
Hey, hi everyone, I'm Ethan, the founder of PolicyWoke. So today we'll be actually talking about property investing since it's time already. And property is really a lot of what people have. So we'll be looking at whether you are looking at it as a home or as an investment, and how do we actually make sense of both, because in fact the mindset is very different when you are looking at it as a home or investment. So let's just go to semantics first. What is property investing? So property investing is about maybe buying a place to rent it out for money or buy a place for appreciation. So mostly about renting or selling when you buy a property. And investing is actually just to put reserve for future benefit. Okay, so in property investing, honestly, it's a lot about cash flow, at least in what we understand. So there are actually 3 different sectors. There's residential, there's commercial, there's industrial. So each different sector has different ways to look at property investing, although the valuation can be quite similar. And there is actually different recognition of the value in the property. So how you look at commercial, industrial, and residential, the constitutions are extremely different, because residential is more about living and commercial is more about working. Okay, so these are the common matrices used for property investing. So before we even talk about whether there's capital appreciation, we need to understand the risk first. So first one is a loan to value. So this is actually the amount of loan that you can take as against the value of the property. So let's say the value of the property is 1 million. So most banks, depending on whether it's residential or commercial, they can lend you up to 90%, which is 900,000. So that is the loan to value ratio. For TDSR, it's more about the total debt servicing ratio. Okay, so this total debt should not be confused with what we talk about later, which is debt servicing ratio. Total debt servicing ratio talks about your total debt, which includes your unsecured loans, your secured loans, any loans that is tagged to your name. So that is considered total debt servicing ratio. For MSR, mortgage servicing ratio, it just means how much you are using, how much of your mortgage is actually against your total servicing ratio. So let's say if your mortgage is 1,200, but your total loan repayment is about 4,000, so that's about 25 to 30%. Yeah, and for debt servicing ratio, it's more about debts, but did not include unsecured loan. So it is everything which includes the mortgage less the unsecured loans. So why TDSR is very important in Singapore is because it actually adds on the unsecured loans. And for TDSR, most of it cannot be more than, if I'm not wrong, 30%, which means your mortgage can be more than 30% of this total debt servicing ratio. So next, we'll talk about whether you think of your property as home or an investment. Okay, so this is what we have come up with. So home, if you are thinking of your property as a home, it's just about the means to reduce your rental that you need to pay. So, for example, when we go out to work, right, a lot of us in Singapore, we are living with our parents, so we do not pay any rent. But by right, for financial literacy, rent is actually a very big component of your expenses. So if you are looking to buy a home, it's more of like reducing the amount of rental that you need to pay lah. So it's more about paying the home and you own it after 30 years comparing to renting for 99 years. Yeah. But if you're looking at investment, the idea of investment will be different. The mindset will be very different. So you'll be more of like looking for dividend income for the future and also some capital protection because if you look at the trend between property and gold, right, against a dollar or a currency, for example, their inflation or their rate of appreciation is quite steady lah. It can be correlated quite easily. So it's actually a hedge inflation. It is to hedge your inflation if you buy a property. But whether it be as a home or investment, the price of entry is actually very important because it actually determines how much you'll be paying for your mortgages. So for property investment, not for home, as in if you're looking at the property as an investment. So these are common metrics used for property. So the number one thing is you need to understand how much capital is required, or we call it the down payment. Then we will look at the net rental income after expenses and tax, because having a rental income is just rental income. If it's a positive, it helps your cash flow. If it's a negative, you are paying for it. So does it make sense you are paying for it? Yeah, that's up to you. Okay, for low interest, it is a measure because most likely are taking at least a 80 to 90% loan. So whatever loan interest that you are taking now will affect the amount of mortgage that you need to repay. So this actually is calculated into the refinancing and whether you are going to do refinancing or repricing. So it's actually very important to have as little loan interest as possible. And we can even talk about dual arbitrage, whereby let's say you are single, because single is very easy to plan. Yeah, if you are single, you may wish to buy a property, rent it out. So let's say, for example, if you bought a HDB 4 room or a 3 room flat, you can rent out the whole flat for $2,000. But you may choose to rent a small room nearer to your workplace so that you don't have to pay any transport fees and also to save time. Then let's say you rent out at 2,000, but you rent a room which is only about $600 or $700. So you can actually arbitrage the amount and get a positive cash flow in these ways. So actually, how do we make sense of the both mindsets in this case? So you need to understand that the matrix for measurement is very, very different if you look at it as a home or as an investment. So for home, it's actually a lot about reducing the expenses. Yeah, because it doesn't make sense to pay a rent of $800, whereby if you can just buy a HDB flat, it's only $600. And if you're looking at investment, you'll be looking at the return of investment, which is the ROI. And it will actually involve a lot about the arbitrage of maybe interest rates, the rental and the mortgage amount, and also the number of leverage that you are using. So you really need to learn to manage your expectations when you're buying your property as a home or as an investment. So we have come to bonus section. So we invite David, actually the author of Singaporean Landlord, for today's episode. So David, yeah, what is your typical working day actually?
Don't really have a typical working day. I pretty much, you can say I manage whatever needs to be done wherever needs me. Yeah. So if say out of 50 tenants, maybe one or two tenants needs my help that day, or maybe I need to go to one or two places that day, then I'll do that. So it's pretty, it really depends on what's required. Yeah.
So am I to say that there is no typical work day where you have like 1 hour for your tenants, then the next 7 hours you're doing something else?
It's not so straightforward. Yeah, it's not like a fixed. Um, it's not like a full time job, so you don't really have a fixed schedule. But generally, I keep my weekends free, and I try to work as much as I can during the weekdays. Yeah.
I see. Okay. So what are the current hobbies that you currently enjoy?
Reading on global situations, what's the trends, and uh, to me, knowledge is, or rather, learning is a hobby for me. Yeah.
Also, so what's your latest hobby now? What are you dabbling?
Latest hobby, I would say golf. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So how many times you go a week?
Uh, One, not
Oh,
much.
okay.
Yeah,
once a week. Okay.
I'm just trying to uh try it out. It's not very I don't put too much time to it. Yeah.
Okay, so what are your current investment philosophy that you subscribe, let's say for property?
Um, don't lose money.
Okay.
Try to buy places that are in high demand all the time. So I only buy inside CBD. Um, and the price has to be good. It cannot be like normal. It has to be good. Yeah. It'll take time to find good properties at good prices. It's not like, oh, I want to buy it now. I go and find. No, you need to do a lot of homework and research, and you need to plan. You need to strategize, and then when you look at properties, you need to consider all the numbers. Then you make an offer, and I would say maybe the first 50 times you get rejected.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of rejection. I mean, if you put it at your
If you look
perspective,
at Einstein,
365 days.
you fail a lot more times, so it's okay. It's okay.
Oh, okay, okay. But you put it in a perspective, there's 52 weeks a year, right? So
You
so
don't have
that
to buy
means
property every year. What?
yeah, but if you offer 50 times, that means you will only get one good offer at least for 1 year, like that means.
That, that's a lot already. No, buy one property a year.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on property investing in the current situation? Since we are having COVID and yeah.
Well, I think it's pretty much the same in all situations. There will always be buyers, there will always be sellers. There will always be genuine buyers and genuine sellers. You just have to be the genuine buyer, and then you have to find the genuine seller.
Could you give like a typical example of a non-genuine seller? Yeah.
I mean, it's quite obvious that when you go to the place, or even before you go to the place, the agent tell you, "Oh, I already have an offer for X amount of money. So if you want to view, you have to be above this amount." Then you already know lah. It's not worth viewing.
Um, okay, so you're not even go down to view the place already, then.
The thing is, they already have a reserve price, and you know that that reserve price is just there so that they don't have to waste their time to show you the place. And you are not going to offer above that reserve price anyway. So why waste time for both of you?
Understand. Yeah, sure. Okay, so let's maybe move on to something more into property. So we have a lot of debate. I think it's really about discussion and debate on whether to use CPF or cash. So what is your general idea then?
Both are good, uh, but it really depends on your personal situation and your investment philosophy. CPF, if you want to use it, you have to understand that there's some opportunity cost involved because you will be losing out on your interest from CPF board. If you use it, then you have accrued interest that is kind of attached onto your usage. So there's always a bit of cost involved. And if you're someone who doesn't save much, I would say CPF is a form of enforced savings. So if you are investing most of your money, so you don't save much, maybe you should keep your CPF in your CPF as an enforced saving, so that you know in the back of your mind that there's this sum of money that will be your basis in the future. So whatever you are investing now is to try to beat that guaranteed return. Um, but we all know that investments is there's no 100% guarantee. So it can go up, it can go down, but over time, hopefully it'll go up. Hopefully, yeah. So we try to have a bit of both. So CPF and cash. Ideally, you want more cash than CPF. So for me, when I buy properties, I try to use cash as much as I can, because to me, properties are investments. So I use cash for that. And CPF to me is more like a kind of like a bond. Uh, it's like a long-term uh, fixed return. I don't have to care too much about it. So it will grow in the background. I know that it's there, so that in a sense I can take a bit more risk with my investments. I don't mind taking a drawdown when it happens. So maybe like 10%, 20% is fine. Yeah, you don't have to worry too much about it.
I see. Okay, so I think with the recent parliamentary debate about mortgage and refinancing, right, I think that our MP Sisito Yiping actually whacked very hard. I heard about refinancing or remortgaging is actually a very, very dangerous proposition. So what's your position on this then?
It's only dangerous to people who um, don't know how to use it. The idea of refinancing is that you want to maintain your low interest. If you don't refinance, it means that your interest will escalate, and it will go back to the higher levels. Normally, when you refinance, the first 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years, the interest rates are reduced. Uh, so most people would refinance every 2 years, every 3 years, or every 5 years, depending on their lock-in period. So if you know how to use it, you would constantly refinance and try to get the best rates possible. There are some banks where the rates are a lot better than others. There are some terms and conditions that are better in some banks than others. Recently, there was this bank where they tried to increase the interest floor rate from, I think, 0.1% to 0.9%. And a lot of people are not happy about it, because it's almost like saying, um, you sign this contract, but I'm going to change your conditions halfway. So, uh, of course, there was a lot of people fighting back. So, in the end, the bank they they stopped this movement to increase the floor rate. So, I think for this group of investors, their interest rates are less than 0.5%, which is very, very good. For me, my personal best mortgage rate is 0.85%. So it's not as good as them, but still pretty decent.
Okay. So am I right to say that actually the context is extremely important?
Uh, well, to me, it's just like a tool. CPF is a tool. Refinancing is a tool. Um, Even investments is a tool. There's so many tools in the world. How you want to use it will will determine whether you are financially better or poorer.
Okay. I understand. Okay, thank you so much. So let's move on to the next question. What do you think? what makes smart leveraging in this case, since we already talked about refinancing a mortgage?
Ideally, if you are looking at it as an investment point of view, you want to reduce your interest rate and you want to pay as little as you can every month while you collect as much rent as you can every month. So this will increase your cash flow. And if you look at the recent policies, I would say the smart way to do would be to take the uh, extension of your re- repayment for your mortgage. So uh, like right now, if you can refinance for a longer period, please do it. If you can reduce your monthly installments, please do it. If you can uh, defer your mortgage, that means don't pay anything for the next few months, go ahead. And if you can extend um, your mortgage tenure from say 30 years to 32 years or 32 and a half years, and your monthly installments drop maybe 10%, 20%, why not? Uh, it's just good financial uh, uh, action to increase your cash flow. And the less you spend now, it means that the more you have for your war chest, for other investments, or because you never know what might happen in the next 2 years, 3 years. Um, maybe there might be an en bloc for your place, and then your property is taken up by the buyer, so it's gone. Then what happens to uh, your mortgage? Is also gone, right? So the in a sense, the longer you can delay the payment of the interest, the better.
I see, but we always have like proponents of no debts. They keep saying that, you stretch so long your loans, right? You're paying even more. What? So they keep using this argument. So how do we actually understand this? But like, why do we say that we should delay our payment as much as possible? But for this kind of people, they keep saying that you're crazy. So why did it come to this issue?
Uh, Actually, to me, if you're paying less than 1% interest, and if you put it in your savings account and you're getting 3.85%, then I think it makes absolute sense to do it. Uh, but we have to understand the entire situation. It's not about how much interest you're paying, it's about your net worth. If you are growing your net worth by 5%, 10% per annum, how much is a reasonable amount to pay for interest? Is 1% reasonable? Is 2% reasonable? Is 3% reasonable? If you're growing at 5%, 10%, and it makes sense for you, then go ahead. But if you're a retiree and your net worth is not growing, if you are just expensing money, you're not investing, then yeah, maybe you should cut down on your debt because you want to reduce your outflow. But if you are growing your money, if you're investing, and whatever money that you're investing, you are already getting higher interest than your property mortgage, then why not? Even if you put it into savings accounts or the higher interest accounts, you're getting more than 1%. You should consider doing it because uh, it's just logical, right?
But to them, they are not convinced of logic. So if let's say we give an example. So let's say I take a loan of 10,000. I'm paying 1.5% interest. So the interest will be about $150, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So but If I extend it, the interest will be like, if I pay $150 every year, like let's say it is a revolving loan. But if I have another one, which like what you mentioned, instead of paying $150, uh, I'm getting I took that 10,000, I put it in the savings account. So you say about 3.5%. So I'm getting $350. So I'm paying $150, but I'm getting $350. So my net gain is $200. I'm right to say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So with that net gain, if I wish, I could keep it or I could pay down the loan. So am I right to say that just by doing that, in fact, my debt actually decreased per year because of that refinancing, because of the money that I have, the net gain, I use it to reduce the loan. So in fact, I'm better off in this sense.
yeah, correct. Because we should always look at net worth. So if your net worth grows by $200 because you took this loan of 10K, and every year your net worth grows by $200 because of this action, then you should continue doing this until the option stops being available. So to me, net worth is more important than interest paid.
Okay, so am I right to say that they are too focused on one aspect, but their thinking is definitely not holistic enough in this sense.
Um, yeah, well, like I said, maybe they're retirees and they don't want to think too much about where to put their money. They don't want to maximize their interest. They don't want to care about all the high interest savings accounts. They just want to live a simple life, not pay interest. Then please pay up all your debts, be interest free, and just minimize your expense.
Okay, then thank you for sharing so much. Yeah, that truly helps to put things into perspective. Yeah. So let's move on to the next point. Uh, what do you think of the current market now? So what do you think we should have the mindset when we are looking at the current market now in terms of property investing?
Um, Most people are thinking that prices might drop. Um, but I think maybe that might be a bit tough because if you notice, the US has been printing money like nobody's business. The US dollar is devaluing for the past months. The stock markets are going crazy for the past months. The financial system is flush with money. Um, this generally leads to increased uh, asset prices because they will try to find uh, like the yields that can guarantee them returns over the years. So if you notice, Singapore's property prices has been following the global property prices, the trend upwards, except during the recent cooling measures, uh, where Singapore has a lot of cooling measures compared to other countries. So Singapore's growth was not as fast as the other countries. So when the prices reduce slightly in other countries, Singapore's property prices maintain about the same. And I think in fact right now it's still kind of going sideways, slightly bullish, slightly sideways. Yeah. So but if you track it based on say gold, you will see that it's actually about the same since maybe 20, 30 years ago. So asset prices are still going up slowly, just like gold is going up. Um, so try not to wait too long to buy property. If you need a property, you can rent or you can buy, whichever makes more sense for you. If the place that you want to stay in is cheaper to rent, then rent. If the place that you want to uh, stay in is cheaper to buy, then buy. And if you can buy a place that is cheap and you can rent it at a price that is high, then do consider doing that.
So before we even do that, right? Let's say for your own journey, what actually inspire to actually start being a property landlord?
Well, when I was because about 10 years ago, I was in this interior design business. I started exploring this space and I thought it was very fun. I did a lot of properties, as in renovating them, making them look good, and it was really fun. So eventually, I decided to buy a place on my own so that I could redesign it and then rent it out. And at the time, Airbnb was still okay, it was still allowed. So I was doing that for quite a while, and it was really interesting experience. Then after that, it became illegal, so I have to change my model. So it's pure rental now, and uh, I've two properties doing that that I own, and then after that, I started renting properties to do a similar concept and then to rent out. So I think it's quite fun to make places nice and then to rent it out to people who are uh, happy to live in these spaces.
So with the current talks about reducing the number of employment passes and the increase in the minimum wage for all these foreigners, so do you see that currently will there be a big impact in the rental prices or will it not? What's your opinion on this thing?
I think it would affect those people who are near the borderline. So if you're earning about 5K as a foreigner, you might be affected. If your income is 7K, 10K, 15K, this recent measure doesn't affect you at all. And if the if you're looking at tenants who are earning at that range, then paying rental of 1,000 to 2,000 is actually quite easy for them. So it wouldn't affect these people at all.
So I'm right to say that knowing your tenants and the market that you market to is very important in this sense because based on the different measures currently rolling out by the government, so it affects different strata and different types of people. So knowing who you rent to and which market you're targeting will actually helps you to understand the market. Am I right to say that?
Yeah, definitely. Choosing your uh, target market is very important. So if you're looking at people who are earning about 10K per month, um, if your room rentals or your apartments are based at say 2K to 3K or even 1.5K to 2.5K, I think you're quite safe because they are well able to afford this rental.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, David. I think in the interest of time, Jimmy, maybe we have to go into Q&A already.
Okay, right. Thank you, Ethan and David, for the fireside chat and the bonus section. We hope you find it valuable with regards to property investing. So we are now going for the Q&A session. So if you still have questions with regards to property investing, now is the time to post your questions as we are now addressing them. Okay, so let me have a look. Ethan, is there any questions from your side?
Okay. I have this question. It says that okay. He is thinking of buying a place, but he is unsure of whether he can continue affording the place for the next 30 years. So for this kind of situation whereby they are they are very new. They are unable to understand property, investing or property, by buying a property. So what would your suggestion be for them?
Um, I think nobody really knows if they can afford a place for 30 years. I don't even know whether I'll be alive in 30 years. But we can always plan based on what we can afford or cannot afford. Generally speaking, if you spend 1/3 of your salary on your property, it's the max, and it's the max that you should go. So let's say if you earn 3K per month, you should spend at most $1,000 on property, whether it's for your own stay or uh, as an investment. Because let's say, for example, if you're staying with your parents, you're not paying any rent, um, but you have to think of it as implied rental. Eventually, you will have to get your own place or you will have to rent somewhere. So whether you spend that 1K or not, uh, it should be set aside. So if you are, let's say further, if you are earning 3K, you keep 1K or you plan 1K every month for your mortgage, what kind of property can you buy? Off the top of my head, you can get a 400K property, of which mortgage every month is 1,000, based on interest rate of about 1.5%. So it's not too difficult to find a place. If you're looking at HDB, but if you're looking at private, then your choices are very limited. You are limited to very small studios that are maybe quite old, or very small studios in very far places. So it's good to be aware of what are your options and what is a safe thing to do. You don't want to extend yourself too much or stretch yourself too much to buy a 500K property or 600K property, hoping that your salary might go up. It might not happen. So just plan based on what you currently have, and that should be safe. Of course, you should always keep your 1 year or 2 years of emergency expenses. You should have your various insurance for your properties just in case you cannot work or something happens that prevents you from working. Then at least you know that this mortgage is taken care of. If I cannot work or if something happens to me, I know that my properties will be paid off for because I'm already covered.
Okay, just a clarification. When you say you earn maybe 3,000, right? Is it before CPF or after CPF?
Uh, Actually, it's about the same because let's say if you have it your CPF in, then you could use your CPF to pay for the mortgage also, right? So it's about the same. It also depends whether you are self-employed or not self-employed. Then CPF will be another consideration also. Yeah. So the main thing is you look at your net worth. If every month your net worth is growing by 3,000, and you know that you could just put aside 1,000 for it.
Okay, thank you, David. Yeah, Jimmy, do you have any other questions?
Yes, we just have one question in. So the question is, what are your thoughts on older HDB estate that have less than 60-year lease left? Any value in them? Thanks.
Uh, for me, the first HDB that I bought, no, the only HDB that I bought was at Holland Avenue. At that time, it was, I think, 60 years when I bought it. And after I bought it, 5 years later, I sold it for a profit of about 25%. And when I sold it, it was 55 years remaining. So I would say that it's okay to buy old property if the demand is still there. If you buy a old property in a place that is low demand or where there are plenty of new properties in that location, then that would not be wise because you want to buy a place where your property is still valuable over time. It's supply and demand. You want to make sure that whatever you buy is still reasonable and logical for other people to buy in the future. If I let's say I'm a fruit seller, I I only sell apples, and let's say this apple I I, I buy it from the fruit seller from my distributor. This is 5 days old apple. Okay, so I can still sell it because nobody else in my neighborhood sells apples. I can still sell my apples. But if my neighboring shops are selling apples that are 1 day old, that are freshly plucked, there's no way I can sell my 5 day old apples. So to me, this is the understanding of the market, of supply and demand, and of the uh, changing, uh, or you can say the evolving trends in the market.
Okay. Okay. What about, let's say if I'm buying it to just live in? So is there like a PSF, or is there a general rule of thumb that I can follow or not? Let's say if the property is less than 60 years old.
Well, the okay for to be frank, it depends on where you want to live, because this one is a more of an emotional question rather than a financial question. If say you want to live in this location specifically and you just have to stay in this location, then the question is, which block do you want to stay in? Maybe this block is the block that you love most because it's right above the supermarket. So the question is, which unit in this block should you buy? Then maybe you really want to live in a corner unit, or you want to see the view of the waterfall across the street. Then that is pretty much your only option already. So you wait until the flat is available for selling, and if it's within your budget, then you buy it.
Okay, so we should not confuse our idea. Like, let's say if you just want to buy a home, the consideration is extremely different than if you want to invest. So for investment, it's a lot about the PSF, whether is it undervalued, whether the rental income can afford everything and give you a very good cash flow. And I'm right to say that in that case.
Yeah,
And even the
I mean, you look at
buy and sell.
the hard numbers if you are investing. PSF can be a bit deceptive, but you have to be very focused on looking at the right kind of PSF. Even in the same condo, yeah, it's not just the PSF. Yeah, so I mean, PSF gives you an indicator of where you are in the range, but you have to understand that every unit has a different view, different size, different. Uh, there are always slight differences between properties in the same apartment. It's never the same. Yeah.
Okay.
As for valuation, valuation can be stretched. So um, don't focus too much on valuation.
Okay, thanks, David. Okay, speaking of valuation, right? Okay, there's another question from the same person. Uh, so regards to those older HDB estate that have less than 60 years lease left, is it better to rent or sell? Not everyone can sell older HDBs at 25% upside. Any comments?
Uh, for me, right, when I bought the flat, I would say it was during a downturn, when prices were quite low. I could have purchased any property in that time and still make 25% or more. So it's not about buying an old flat. I would say it's more about market timing. So if you know that prices are reduced maybe 5%, 10%, you know that stock markets are tanking 50%, and you need a place to stay, then you buy lah. As for selling, at the time when I sold, it was about 5 years ago. So at the time, I was looking at the HDB market pricing index, and it seemed to be plateauing. So I thought maybe it's time to sell. Anyway, my 5 years is up, and there were other better places to buy. So at the time, the property prices in the private residential properties were lower than usual. So I thought it was a good time to sell HDB and buy private, because HDB up, private down. So that's it's just acting based on what's the available information. It's true that the market keeps on changing. So I don't know what's the market going to be like in 5 years' time. But what I know now is that prices are still quite high for properties. People might be more willing to negotiate because of COVID, maybe. I don't know. But it's possible that people are more willing to negotiate. So if you're really interested to buy now, and you know that there's this place, say Holland Avenue, where there are very little units available, and you find a place that you really like, you think is something that you can stay in, that if you want to rent out, your tenants working nearby are willing to pay you to stay there, then yeah, sure, go ahead. Buy it at a price that you think is reasonable. Don't buy it at a inflated price. It's just like stock market. You try not to buy near the top, because your risk reward is poorer. Did I answer the question?
No worries, I will reply that, we hope we have answered your questions, and we'll inform him or her that if he or she requires further clarification, she can comment down below and we will address them during the next episode.
The question was about valuation, right?
It's just a comment that says not everyone can sell older HDBs at 25% upside. Yeah.
The question is more about is it better to rent or sell? Yeah.
Oh, well, I think if you right now you have a property in a mature estate with high demand, is it better to rent or to sell? I would say rent, because rental is kind of fixed. I mean, it's based on the salary of the people working nearby. If your if your house is in say Tanjong Pagar, then you know that the income of the people in Tanjung Pagar is 4K, 5K, 6K. They can easily afford 800, 1,000, 1,002. And if you know that your installment is $600 per month, you should rent out and collect the difference. Why do you want to sell a property that can give you positive cash flow? People sell because they have no choice. They cannot rent it out, so they sell. Unless you're telling me that you have a better deal. You sell this place so they can buy another place that can give you an even better rental, even better cash flow. Then yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, thanks David for answering. So do you have any more questions? Ethan, anything from your side?
I think in the interest of time, we have to stop already. Yeah.
Okay, can. Okay, so in interest of time, we are going to end this episode. So thank you for tuning in and all the questions you have for us. But however, the topic on property investing is not over. If you still have questions regards to property investing or you require further clarifications, do post your comments and we will address them during the next episode. Right. So on this last slide, there's this QR code whereby if you scan this QR code, you have access to our landing page whereby you can reach us via our website, Facebook, YouTube, and Telegram. So if you go to our Telegram channel, you'll be able to see more details about the resale insurance policies that we have. So if you want to know more about all these insurance policies, do reach us on our Telegram channel and we will get back to you. So speaking of the next episode, join us next Saturday, 3 p.m. for JEDi episode 19 on investments part 8. If you like our content and be notified for future episodes, do like our page and share this post. We will see you next Saturday and
May
may the finances be with you. Okay, goodbye.